Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, David. Well, we knew the Oilers weren't going to run the board on these 4 games, so I guess we may as well get one of the losses out of the way. I mean, we're facing a murderer's row of teams over the next 4 games, including tonight, right? And this is a real test for this club, and this is mostly the club that you're going to have in the playoffs. So it's our chance to see how they stack up against really good teams. And tonight told a story.
In the playoffs, that's an interesting concept, Kurt, because it's in doubt.
I have no doubt they're going to make the playoffs, but
okay. Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a question. A lot more would have to go wrong than is currently going now for them to not make the playoffs.
They have a very tough schedule ahead.
They do. It's these next 4 games I think will dictate how easy or hard it's going to be, right?
Yeah, I have doubt. I officially have doubt that they will make the playoffs. I'd say they have it like a 70% chance, maybe a 30% chance of not making it.
The last odds I saw was about 70%. So your sense is kind of what the odds makers are saying. So,
yeah, they've got to figure things out fast. Let's get into this. 6-3 loss to the Hurricanes of Carolina, Kurt, and the grade A shots in the game were 15-11 for the Hurricanes.
Is that all?
With the subset of 5 alarm shots, 8-5 for the Hurricanes.
It's closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that's what Zach Hyman was saying after the game. He thought the shots count was a little misleading. It's still a pretty big margin, though. 15-11 and 8-5. Like that's at least a goal difference. Which is kind of what it was till garbage time.
Yeah,
so that was
the empty net goal and the garbage time goal. But I don't think anybody thought this game was really seriously in doubt, right? I mean, Carolina was the better team for 56 minutes of this game.
I was still holding out hope until I get to the 4th goal, which will be my bad thing. But it was, just to tease, one of the all-time worst sequences of play from an Oilers player that I've ever seen on that particular play. So we'll get into that in a moment.
Just let me say I'm impressed you're going to pick one guy out of the pile on that goal.
I will make my case, and we will see if you agree in the end.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. Just in case anyone was like so disgusted they're just half-hearted. I'm not going to listen to this or not. Well,
that was as we often call it here at the Cult of Hockey, a fire drill.
It was so horrible. Oh God. Okay, Kurt. What is your good thing?
Well, there was a handful.
2 good things, 2 bad things, 2 numbers. What is your good thing?
Yeah, there were a handful of good things tonight, and I'll pick the low-hanging fruit. The second star of the game, Zach Hyman. Hyman had 2 goals tonight. One of the few Oilers players who I thought was consistently dangerous on the evening, and actually had the first real good chance of the game and buried it. This was the 1-0 goal, which started with an excellent defensive play, the combination of Leon Draisaitl, but particularly Mattias Ekholm, deep in his own end, and that led to a McDavid stretch pass. And how often do we say that, McDavid stretch pass? But that was like a 120-foot pass up to Zach Hyman, who went in and didn't miss, and it was 1-0. Hyman figured in on the score sheet later in the game as well. When you move it ahead to the game at 4-2, and you're thinking, well, this is done. And all of a sudden, Evan Bouchard starts the play deep in his own zone. But the star of this show is Leon Draisaitl, who just puts on a terrific performance, a great rush up the ice, and then a backhand that should just be on repeat for the next 6 months. Just a fantastic pass. And Zach Hyman does exactly what he should do in that play. He finds quiet, empty ice. Leon finds him on the tape, off the tape, bam, 4-3, and it's a game again. This isn't a game without those 2 goals from Zach Hyman. If you're looking for silver linings and good things in a pretty rough patch for the Oilers right now, a 2-goal performance by Zach Hyman. And I would suggest to you that 4-3 goal in particular were among the brightest of bright spots tonight for the Oilers.
Yeah, it started out actually pretty good because right away there was a breakaway and Tristan Jarry made a fantastic save. And I'm thinking, oh, great. He's off to a good start here.
Yep. Off Ehlers.
Yeah, a real goal scorer.
Yeah.
And I think it was Emberson who got caught out on that one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really recall the play, but that's what I have in my notes. My good thing, excuse me, is another veteran Oiler, Matthias Ekholm, another Ken Holland acquisition. Ken gets a lot of criticism now, much of it justified, but he makes some great acquisitions.
The Ekholm was a good one.
Ekholm, Hyman, Kane, like 3 absolute key players in 2 Stanley Cup final runs. Anyway, I just thought he had a great game.
He did.
And, he really made a nice play on the play you're talking about where he stops a 2-on-1. He does the right thing. He shades over to the danger man. And for some reason, the Carolina Hurricane player still decides to pass the puck, try to pass it over, and he knocks it away. He just won battles and moved the puck well all game long. He was terrific. I thought Evan Bouchard was not bad, although there was one play in the second where he lost Stankoven in front of the net, and Stankoven absolutely drilled a shot on net. So I hold that against Evan Bouchard. But Ekholm is, I'm glad he didn't go to the Olympics. He looks healthy. And, if there's positives on this team, they're a relatively, I think, healthy team. I mean, Adam Henrique went out tonight,
after blocking,
which is a big loss.
Yeah.
On the penalty kill. I mean, I do think he is critical to the penalty kill.
Agree.
And if you had a 1-2 punch of Henrique and Dickinson killing penalties, you're set in a lot of ways. You've changed your penalty kill. It'll be interesting to see if Szymanski's called up. I don't think they'll trust him on the penalty kill, though. Unfortunately, I think they might want to consider that, but he's not Henrique anyway. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, Ekholm was one of a handful of players who did everything right tonight.
Well, when when you get outplayed and outshot the way the Oilers did tonight, not many players are going to have a CF over 50%. And in fact, I think there was only 3, and one of them was Matthias Ekholm. And 5-on-5 high danger scoring chances at natural stat trick for Matthias Ekholm, tops on the team, 8-4, 2 against. A healthy Matthias Ekholm gives this team a chance. An injured Matthias Ekholm, and you're in a hole.
No chance.
Because he is a critical part of your first pairing D-man, and I don't see another defenseman on this team who could step into that spot if he's hurt.
Well, especially with Nurse and Walman just playing so under capacity. His and Kulak not being here, his prominence on the team just comes to the fore. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they have this great top pairing, that's why I'm saying 70%. They've got some great players on this team, and if the other players can crank it up and stop making so many hideous mistakes, maybe they'll start winning some games.
Good point.
Kurt, what's your bad thing?
My bad thing was the 4-2 goal, because it's a 3-2 game. And at that point, Tristan Jarry, who had far from a good game tonight, but through the second period, this game's already over if it isn't for Tristan Jarry. Like I think he stopped 15 of 16 shots in the second period, and making up for some of his shoddy work in the first period. But it was, thanks to him, it was still a game. And at 3-2, the puck comes in front, and Trent Frederick, who is moving much, much better. I think you and I agree on that.
Yeah,
David.
he is.
Has a chance, a bang chance in front, swings at the puck, ting, off the post. Rebound comes out, swings and misses. Puck goes down in the other direction. Boom.
Yeah.
4-2. And I know you're going to detail what happened at the other end, but as a long-suffering hockey fan, how many times do you see it? You're almost back into the game. You're almost there, and you hit the post at one end, and what happens? The opposition goes down and they score at the other. It's an inevitability of hockey. I've seen it so many times, and honestly, as soon as Frederick hit the post, my comment was not, "Oh, that was close." It was, "Uh-oh." And sure enough, you know what happened at the other end. And my wife turned to me and she goes, "How did you know?" I said, "I've seen it a million times."
I didn't like Jari on the first goal. He was looking through a screen and he just was way out of position to make the stop. I mean, it's up to goalies to work around screens in the NHL. It's part of the job. But he made a number of really big saves. A lot of them were like weird ones. He was screened a lot,
Hmm.
and he was, there was the one deflected in off Nurse, which I'll talk about shortly. Um,
Well, and the 1-1 was a difficult one, right? Hey, because
it,
he and
it
because he and
was
he and his defenseman got tangled up. There was other mistakes on the ice as well. So
lots.
right, so absolutely, Jari was out of position on the Gostisbehere goal, but I don't put him principally at fault because I don't think he had any chance of stopping that puck.
I don't think so either, but he was out of position, and I thought on the third goal he was also out of position. Obviously, that very sneaky pass from behind the net.
Yeah,
And
agree.
every single Oiler though was fooled on that play. Every single Oiler on the ice was fooled on that third goal again. So that's a hell of an
On the
offensive play.
3-1. Yeah.
So I'm going to focus on the 4-1, particularly Jake Walman on the 4-1. And Walman, he's involved in the offensive play there, but it's too much to say that he lollygags on the way back to cover off the rush by Taylor Hall, but he is slow. He could have been faster. He could have been more alert. And his lack of alertness this year is alarming, Kurt. His is, and so that was the first thing. And the penalty was, I think he probably deserved a penalty. He was in there, but then it's a 6-on-5, and so his first mistake is a little slow back, takes a penalty, probably a penalty, and then the next thing that happens is he gets tangled up in front of the net, and he 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 I think he decides he's going to try to get a penalty drawn because he kind of drops his stick. He gets tangled up. A Carolina player has his stick, and he lets it go to the ice. It's not a broken stick. He drops that stick to the ice, and he doesn't pick it up again. And then the ref doesn't call it. So now he's without his stick. And conscientious Trent Frederick rushes over and gives him his stick.
Which is the right thing to do.
Instead of Walman saying, "Hey, I got a stick. It's just on the. I have a good stick here. I don't need your stick. I'll get my stick. Keep your stick." He he takes Frederick's stick now. Okay, he's got Frederick's stick, and now Frederick must think the stick's broken because he's rushing around without his stick.
I thought it was broken.
I thought it was broken, but it wasn't. You watch he's playing with that stick. It gets grabbed. He's trying to get a penalty call and he drops it on the ice and he doesn't get the penalty call. So now the puck's moved around and it's moved to Frederick's side. And if he had had a stick, he might have been able to block that shot. But he doesn't have a stick because he's given Jake Walman his stick, who doesn't need a stick, but dropped a stick. And now Jake Walman screens the goalie.
He does.
For the coup de grace, he's taken the penalty. He's stupidly really dropped his stick. He's stupidly kind of taken Trent Frederick's stick, and now he decides, oh, I'm going to screen the goalie, and it's going to go right in the net.
Jari didn't see that at all.
He did not.
No.
The whole thing with his stick was what makes me so incensed about this play, because it's one unforced mistake after another, mental error after another. And Walman has bad line changes. He's just made so many kind of weird mental mistakes this year, Kurt. He's got to get it together and make better decisions on the ice.
You know what I saw in him tonight? because I agree with your assessment. And I think, Guy, I admire the fact that he took responsibility for his play the last game, where he was nicked up, but he got sat in the third period by
Yeah.
Paul Coffey. But he didn't shy away from that, which I admire in a player. Like, he took it like a man, right in the chin. And I thought he was guilty of just trying to do way too much tonight. And when you try to do way too much at this level, inevitably you get burned. And I just thought it's one of those cases where the harder you paddle, the faster you sink. And that's kind of what I saw in his game tonight.
Numbers. What is your numero, Kurt?
You're not going to like this. 56. The Edmonton Oilers have allowed 56 goals in their last 12 games. 4.666666. Infinity.
It could be worse. They could have allowed 6.666. They're well on their way to that now.
Yeah. You're not going to win many, David, when you're allowing 4.5 goals a game.
Have they ever heard of, in their own zone, stopping and starting on the puck and taking straight lines to the puck here instead of looping around? I'm seeing a lot of looping around. And, I want to talk briefly. Maybe we'll get to this in a second. Let's just deal with this now. Like, each of the three new players, how they played. Colton Dach, on two of the goals, was slow to the shooter, the point shot. And if he wants to stay in the NHL and on the Edmonton Oilers, that cannot happen for a fourth line player. So the goal that went in off Nurse, that point shot, first Dach turned it over, and then he was slow to the point. And then on the sixth goal, which was in garbage time, he was a little slow to the point as well. But he's got to do better than that. He just does.
Now, Jason Dickinson, I thought, was the best of the three new players.
I really liked his game.
Yeah, good on the PK. He only allowed one high danger scoring chance the whole game long. Was 50% on the faceoff circle in 12:43, and was one of two Oilers players who were plus on the night. He was +1, and Kasperi Kapanen was +1. I like the speed with which he plays and the grit with which he plays. We're going to get into the trade deadline in a second, but good first night for that new addition to the team.
And Murphy had a rough night.
He did.
Lost a board battle on the first goal, and he was caught out to lunch on the third goal when that pass came out. I mean, again, every Oiler on the team was fooled by that. But it was his primary responsibility guarding that post in that moment to be the guy he's most responsible for not getting fooled in that moment. Like, the other people are trying to follow the play. He's supposed to be kind of the rear guard action in case something breaks out on the wrong side and cover that guy off, and he failed to do that. So it was a tough night. But that was a very hard play, I have to say. Like, a great pass. I can't remember who made it. Was it Ehlers, I think, maybe, to Martinook? And what a great play.
I will point out the one thing that I did like about our new defenseman was that outlet pass to Dickinson early in the first period, which turned into a chance for Dickinson at the other end. I was told that Murphy has pretty good first pass capability, and that was a very nice first pass. That was his first shift of the game, I believe. And I saw things from Murphy that are going to help down the road. He is much better at boxing his man out in front of the net than just about anybody else on the team.
Which they're terrible at doing.
They're awful at. He and Ekholm are already the best two on the team at it by far and away. So
they really are, and it's because they read the play and they're ahead. I noticed that there was a PK early on, and he blew a Hurricanes forward out of the crease who was going for the puck, and I thought, thank goodness, like, about time somebody does that on the Oilers. Like, you just hardly ever see it on this team. Ekholm does it as well. You're right, Kurt.
Yeah.
But so many of them are bad at it. Okay, speaking of bad at it, Nurse. We've talked about him deflecting pucks going in off him before. Mm-hmm. It's something that's often mentioned. And so I had actually run the numbers and I just found them again and I updated them this game about how many times he's. So I've actually been tracking this since 2019-20. So what is that, 6 seasons or something like that? And I'll just go with the totals for those seasons. Lots of defensemen have played, lots of time. So in about 40,000 minutes played, even strength minutes played by Oilers defensemen in those seasons, there's been 87 deflected shots on net for grade A shots against. 87 in 40,000 minutes. Outside of Nurse. So all the other defensemen combined, 87. Nurse himself has made 37. So now he's played a lot more than any. He's played about 11,000 minutes compared to 40,000 minutes, but his rate is not twice as high, but about, let's say, 60 to 70% higher than the other defensemen at even strength. So this isn't. I think we can rule out bad luck. And when you see like overtime over many seasons, and on the penalty kill, and again he's played more time. All the other defensemen on the penalty kill have deflected on net 24 grade A shots. He's done 12. So it's not just bad luck. And what it is, it's what we see, I think, in his overall game. The problem with his game is, what I notice with him, he's either a little too close to a play, pushing too hard, or he's a little too far away. His positioning is always a little bit off in his worst moments. When he gets out of sync on the ice, Darnell Nurse is either too passive or too aggressive. And he just doesn't read the play as well as your average NHL defenseman. And it gets him in trouble. And on deflections, I think he gets in trouble because he's late to the box out. He's not anticipating boxing people out. He gets in positions now then when he's screening the goalie, when he's in front of the goalie, fighting with someone. Instead of having him at the side of the net, he's right in front of the goalie. It hits him, and there's a deflection on net. And I think it's just indicative of his overall below average reading of the game for an NHL defenseman.
Is part of it pure volume, David? Because I mean, he's the Oilers' leading shot blocker by, almost 50%, right? So by volume, he blocks way more shots. So, ipso facto, he's going to be in the way of way more pucks than anybody else in the team.
That's a really interesting question, Kurt. So Kurt Russell, Kurt Russell was the ultimate shot blocker, right?
Chris Russell.
Chris Russell.
Kurt Russell was a great actor.
Hell's coming. Hell's coming with me. So Nurse is at, these are like minuscule numbers. He's at 0.05 deflected shots on net on grade A shots per 15 minutes of ice time. 0.05. Chris Russell, who was a much better, was even a higher blocker, is at 0.02. So he had less than half the rate than Darnell Nurse. And Ekholm, who blocks a lot of shots. So
yeah, because Ekholm's second on the team this year.
Okay, so Ekholm, here's another good comparison. So in 11,000 even strength minutes, roughly, Nurse has 37 deflections on net. Mm-hmm. So 37 in 11,000 minutes. Ekholm's closer to 4,000 minutes, and he's got one, Kurt, at even strength. One. So the next, there's some other players who have had some fairly high rates, like, who have had similar high rates as Nurse.
Well, that's a pretty interesting statistic. I'm glad you dug that up. Do you know who the Edmonton Oilers' leading forward is in blocked shots?
No, I do not. You mean this year or like
this year?
No, I don't know that.
It is Adam Henrique, and it's not close.
Really? And he just got injured blocking a shot.
Yeah. He has twice as many as the second highest forward, which is Vasily Podkolzin.
Yeah. All right. So there we have it with Darnell Nurse. He just...
I want to wrap up this game as frustrating as it was to watch from an Oilers standpoint. Can I just say how much fun it is to watch the Carolina Hurricanes? Am I allowed to say that as an Edmonton Oilers fan? They play with such pace and relentless pursuit of the puck. They're a very well-balanced team from lines 1 through 4 and from pairings 1 through 3. They lack the top end talent that a team like Edmonton or Denver or Dallas has, but they have a very balanced lineup. They are well coached and they are hard on pucks, man. It's a little stunning that this team hasn't won more playoff games than they have. I guess their goaltender, which we didn't test that much tonight.
You can say it. Kurt, let's just go to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I think I was worried about Dallas and Vegas making big moves. I don't think they really did, unless I missed something. They didn't. So
Vegas certainly didn't.
Vegas didn't. They had kind of made their move, just like they had brought in Rasmus Anderson earlier.
Yeah, who hasn't played well, by the way, so far.
But I don't mind the Oilers' moves at all. I think that they made the right moves. We'll see if Colton Dach can help. If he can't, that's not a big deal. They have other players they can slot in there anyway.
Yeah.
I think Connor Murphy was, they needed a defensive defenseman. They got one. It was great to pick up a defensive center. They got a really good one. I've always, and again, I haven't done the work to have a credible opinion on like a fulsome credible opinion on these players. I think you really have to watch them closely for 20 games and keep careful notes and have a real understanding of them, all they do. And but from my recollection of him against Oilers games, he's always played hard against the Oilers and played well, and he's a good hockey player. And tonight that was reinforced. He battles hard and he looks like a smart hockey player. They needed another. It's great to get a third line centerman. It's impressive that they were, they paid a price, obviously a first round pick, but I like all of the moves that they made. On the face of it, again, the proviso being I'm not that credible on assessing these players yet.
Yeah, if we're looking at the deadline itself and not how the roster was constructed, from July 1st on, I think Stan Bowman deserves probably a high B. Maybe not quite an A, but a high B for the trading deadline. Jason Dickinson, I recognize as just a guy who's hard to play against. And the times when I have seen him play against the Oilers, he has just stuck to Connor McDavid like a magnet. And when you listen to him in interviews, you realize he really takes pride in that sort of play. And all it took me was one game watching him tonight go, yeah, he'll help us. Right? He's not a fourth line center who we're going to play as a 3. He's an actual 3. Right? So I was very pleased with that acquisition. As for the price, a lot of people are mentioning the first 2 things I'll say about that. One, keep in mind this is a low first. It's not the same as a top 10 first round pick. And the other thing is that pick had to go the other way in large part to get Chicago to take Mangiapane's contract. So it's not like we spent that first round pick only on Jason Dickinson. So there's my thoughts on him. So on Connor Murphy, remember our last podcast when I said, people were giving me grief when I said it was a good but not great acquisition, and people were going, "No, Leavins, it's a great acquisition." I go, "No," I said this defenseman is a good 5-6 on a good team, and I think we saw tonight why. Right? He'll be a very useful defenseman. I think the acquisition makes the Oilers better. I think he will help on the penalty kill. He'll certainly be physical on the walls and boxes his players out better out front. But don't pretend that he's a top 4 defenseman. He wasn't in Chicago, and he isn't going to be here. So if you thought that that's what you were getting, strike that from your mind. he makes the team better, but let's not kid ourselves and turn him into something that he's not. And as for Doc, great story, hometown kid. It must have just been a thrill for him to get to play in front of his folks tonight. I'm with you. If after a couple games it looks like this kid just needs a little bit more seasoning, certainly no sin having him play in Bakersfield for the rest of the year. I think depending on what happens with Adam Henrique's injury, I mean, we could see Josh Szymanski up tomorrow in time for Sunday's game in Vegas. In fact, if he's in Bakersfield right now, which he is, it's a pretty short trip over to Vegas.
Does he have to play one game, even if there's an injury?
No, I don't believe so. And our friend Ira will be out there correcting me if I'm wrong. But I do believe there was a 1-day exception around the deadline where you don't have to do that. I believe he's covered by that and does not have to play that one game.
Okay.
Call me Ira.
The one thing that had me worried about deadline day was, even though, so Vegas didn't make a big deal, Minnesota didn't really, Dallas didn't, which was a big relief. Seattle didn't, unless you consider Bobby McMahon a big deal.
Yeah, which will help them, but I've never thought Seattle was.
Oh. But 2 teams did. 3 teams did. John Carlson to Anaheim, Mackenzie Weegar to Utah, and Nazem Kadri, Nick Waugh, Brett Kulak, and Nick Blankenberg to Colorado. Colorado had a great trade deadline period.
But they had to, right?
And Kurt, Florida had a great deadline period last year, picking up Marchand, and then Seth Jones previous to that. They really improved their team. And Colorado has really improved its team in a significant way. So that's, who knows? It's awfully far down the road at this point. The Oilers have got to start winning some games, make the playoffs, and then win a couple rounds before they'd ever face Colorado, presumably. But that was a huge trade, getting Nazem Kadri, and it brought back, the Brad Marchand, what Marchand did with Florida last year. It's very worrisome that they were able to get such a great player. It happens.
Well,
so,
my comment on that is Colorado has a tougher road to the Western Conference Final than the Oilers do.
Yeah.
So they had to. Their general manager knows that, so he really had to go out and make some moves. I've watched a bit of Nazem Kadri this year. Kind of like I've watched a bit of Evander Kane this year. And as you know, Evander Kane did not get moved at the deadline. And it's funny. I don't know if you heard, but the quote out of Canucks management, no one made us an offer. It's like,
yeah. Well, he's $2.5 million. He's just too much at that price.
Yeah, well, yeah, but then look at Kadri's salary. I'm here to tell you that Nazem Kadri, unless he is born again in the playoffs, he's a shadow of what he used to be. Still a useful player? Absolutely. Can he help their bottom 6? Of course he can. He's not the Nazem Kadri that you remember. So good trade.
That's good news.
Good trade, yes. Great trade, maybe it'll turn out that way. We'll see. I saw him play enough uninspired games this year to wonder if he is not past his due date. We'll see.
I give you credit for having the intestinal fortitude to sit through Calgary Flames games, Kurt.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah. The truth of the matter is I have an old affiliation with the Flames, and I think there's.
I don't know, Kurt. What is it?
Oh yeah. I was a member of the host broadcast team there on 2 separate occasions in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
And
right.
So and was treated extremely well by that organization. So like most people in Edmonton, I don't dump over Calgary all the time. I find most of the dumping comes up the number 2, not down the number 2. I think way more people in Calgary hate the Oilers than people in Edmonton hate the Flames.
Well, there's not much to hate right now, that poor team.
No, there's not. I was going to make this comment, since there was not much to cheer about from the Oilers tonight. You can feel good about this. 3 of the teams that Edmonton has vanquished in the playoffs over the last few years, look how the mighty have fallen. The Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames are just now just rotten hockey teams. And the Oilers just wrecked them. And frankly, I don't think the LA Kings are far behind. I think they'll rue the day that they decided to bring Mr. Holland out of retirement, because what a tire fire that is.
Anaheim worries me with Carlson. Anaheim's power play hasn't run well, and they bring in one of the best power play quarterbacks in the NHL.
Carlson isn't the Carlson of old, but he's still a very good NHL player and will make them better for sure.
Mackenzie Weegar is a really good player.
He's been having a bad year.
Has he?
Yeah,
well,
but I think he's unlike Kadri. It's Weegar. I don't think is over the hill. I just think he was disheartened playing on such a bad team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what happens in the playoff race, Kurt. I do really like Dickinson, and it's funny how much I just like Adam Henrique on the penalty kill.
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't know that about the block shot stat. It doesn't surprise me at all. He is a hell of a defensive hockey player.
Yeah,
he's one of the few Edmonton Oilers forwards who really fundamentally grasp defensive hockey and everything you have to do, and plays his position. He's really sound.
Yeah. Usually, if Adam Henrique makes a mistake on a goal against, it's because he couldn't get there.
The physical error,
right?
Yeah,
yeah,
not a mental error.
Yeah,
he makes the fewest mental errors, maybe of any Oiler. You know, Ekholm's pretty low on that list.
Ekholm would have been the next guy I mentioned. You and I are on the same page there. Yeah.
We won't get into who makes the most, but
that's for another podcast.
Well, there's a lot of challengers for that particular title, Kurt.
It's been a challenging year. Why not have lots of challengers for that?
All right. So the next game is Sunday?
Sunday in Vegas.
Sunday in Vegas. All right. Any final thoughts, Kurt? Anything you'd like to add?
Were you surprised at all that the Oilers didn't try to do something at the last minute with their goaltending?
Oh, I was going to ask you about that, because you've been talking about so many ways to skin a cat, all that kind of, and thinking something's got to get done or should get done and Bowman should do it. I was expecting, that was it kind of thing, but you wanted more. What do you think? Are you up? What do you think about that?
Well, I think he sniffed around, but I think he probably discovered that the price to bring in anybody that was going to be a real difference maker was insurmountable. But if you really wanted to put this team over the top, after you got Dickinson and Murphy, what's the other thing that would really put this team over the top? Because you've plugged two defensive holes in your team. It's consistent goaltending, right? And maybe you'll get that from Tristan Jarry or from Connor Ingram, but we haven't seen it so far. More so from Jarry than from Ingram. And just as a comparison, I was really shocked that the Montreal Canadiens basically stood pat at the deadline. They're right there. They're a good team that should be in the playoffs, and the only thing that's holding them back is shitty goaltending. And Montembeault was in last night and let in two goals that a Bantam goaltender wouldn't allow. And it was just so disappointing as a fan of Canadian hockey that Montreal didn't go out and get a goaltender.
One of those Toronto goalies might have helped, right? Because they had, they weren't Jason Wall. Toronto was asking a lot, though, it seemed, for whatever.
My Aunt Sarah would help Montreal in goal right now.
I know Binnington was available. I just don't personally believe in Jordan Binnington.
Well, you and I look at that differently. As you know, he's a champion and a winner. And I'm shocked that somebody did not Vegas. Like, I thought if Edmonton or Montreal didn't, I thought Vegas would try Jordan Binnington, but they didn't either. So I don't know.
I think it's the modern NHL, Kurt. The modern NHL is increasingly analytics driven, and they would have goals above expected for Binnington and all the goalies, and how many, the shot quality, and they're looking at this guy and they think he's done. And whatever he did in 2019, and if he came up hot in one game in the Four Nations, like, good for him. But that argument about being a winner, it goes over, I think, more with traditional hockey GMs. But these modern guys, I don't think it goes over, like, it's not as big a deal. And I think that's why Montreal would have passed on Binnington. They would have looked at his analytics and they would have thought, no, no way. Now maybe they're wrong. I'm not saying they're
I
right
was
or
going
wrong.
to say if they miss the playoffs, they'll be happy with their analytics department.
I'm actually saying they're right, but I'm saying there's a possibility that I could be wrong, and the analytics people could be wrong. But
I think
I
all
do.
three teams that I just mentioned made a mistake by not going out and getting him, including Edmonton.
Now Bobrovsky is a different thing.
Because the salary is just overwhelming,
Well,
right?
Florida not have been willing to eat half? Like, let's say they're ready to move on from him. They don't want to risk money on an older goalie.
Not sure they can sign him anyway, right?
And yeah, so they could eat half. He'd be $5 million, and you'd think some team could afford him. Now, if he really was available, maybe he didn't want to go. I don't know what his no movement situation is, whether he would have to agree. But
a lot of Russians don't want to play in the West.
Really interesting. So, maybe I just think the reason I didn't expect Bowman to do anything is I didn't think he could. Like, I just didn't see it.
Well, I think that's fair. I think it's possible that he sniffed around and said, "Oh, there's no way I can do this." I think that's possible. I'm not in the room with Stan, so I'm not going to judge him too harshly on this. All I know is there were 2 championship goaltenders available out there, and no one went out and got them, which is a little surprising.
Yeah, we don't know if Bobrovsky was open to moving. Let me just quickly check, Kirk, to see if he has a no movement clause, because that could have had a major impact. Obviously.
Yeah, because he's a pending UFA, right? Whereas Binnington has another year.
That's the other problem with Binnington.
But if you could move Jari in that trade, who's got 2 more years, then it's not a concern.
Yes. So,
but maybe
St. Louis seems to be. There's a couple teams that seem to be overvaluing their players. St. Louis and Toronto at the top of the list.
Yeah, well, St. Louis has its own problems, right? Like trading players who don't want to be traded, and then trying to blame someone in their front office for leaking it. It's like,
you know what?
What a soap opera that was. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Sucks to be them. Yeah, watch me cry crocodile tears for St. Louis's front office.
I speak for all Oiler fans and put a pox on the St. Louis Blues.
Screw you guys.
It was actually a brilliant move, the Holloway Broberg thing. So I shouldn't even say that.
Yeah.
So
maybe it was your grandmother who outed you on the trade and caused him to not waive.
16-team no trade list for Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
So he could have gone to half the teams. Now, if he's wise picking that, you can kind of pick the teams that are up against the cap, and then there's no hope you're going to get moved. So
well, and Vegas, now that they can't cheat, it's really much harder for them to than it used to be.
Well, I thought when Stone went on LTIR or on IR, I thought, okay, Vegas is gearing up. They're going to do something.
Daisies in the spring. Mark Stone is on the disabled list.
But they might be like the Oilers. At some point, you're just tapped out. And I know, I think the Oilers they have only a second round pick. I don't know what their draft situation. They've got hardly any picks this year, and I just think you do have to have some picks, and unless there was something kind of obvious, maybe they could have brought in a 4th liner. Some people would have been happy with that, but I think they've done a pretty good job of filling out the roster. Colton Dach is a big hitter. They've got that guy. Now he's just got to play safe hockey and figure that out. And if he can't do that, maybe they'll bring up someone else maybe who can have a go at that. So, I think Szymanski as a 4th liner can play safe hockey on the wing. He's not the physical guy that Doc is, but you can't have goals against. So, there's other options. So, I just didn't see the Oilers.
Well, I don't think either. When Curtis Lazar's healthy, I don't think either one of those guys is playing in the playoffs anyway.
That's right, Kurt. Lazar's coming back. He's the obvious choice.
Yeah.
So, you're right. Doc's not playing when Lazar's back.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that could be a good line now. Hopefully, probably Henrik just blocked a shot. So unless he's shattered a bone. That's possible.
Let's hope.
All right.
Well, you opened up a can of worms asking me if I had anything else. 10 minutes later.
That's why I asked you. I wanted to, we got to get to the bottom of these things.
Got to give our loyal listeners their money's worth.
That's right. The podcast is free, of course. All right. So we've accomplished our goal yet again tonight.
Over-delivered.
We set the bar low, so it's easy to crawl over it.
Right over it. Oh, dear.
Kurt, thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks, David. Despite the outcome of the game tonight, the podcast was fun.
And thanks to the smartest, wisest, sanest hockey fans in the world, the faithful. And in the meantime, and in between time, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.